start our recording here. Excelente. Y buenos días. ¿Cómo están todos?
Bueno, muy bueno.
¿Están bien? ¿Están bien?
Sí, sí.
Excelente, excelente. Me alegro. Bueno, y feliz miércoles. Happy Wednesday. We are going to take any questions you had on our eclipse video, but first, before any of that, I want to show you some things before we talk about our eclipse video, because many of the words that you heard in the eclipse video, and I'll send you the full clip, we won't play all of this. There were a lot of little things in between. This was, the video was very much a less formal, less of a presentation, more of a kind of stream of consciousness. This is just all what's happening in the moment kind of thing. But I don't know if you noticed it, but what I want to show you is some words that started blipping in during that video a lot and why they matter. It's that muletillas, the little pause words thing. Okay, so I'm just going to play snippets of this. O sea was one of the words you probably heard her say a lot. O sea. And actually, it's not a word, it's two words. O sea. But they're going to explain again what o sea is and why you hear it. O sea is, yeah, like I mean. But it gives an example, and he'll show you. And actually, they have the previous blip was on digo, which digo means, oh, oops, I made an oops in the middle of my whatever I said, and now I'm going to correct it. Digo means somebody, I said something and, oh, I misspoke, and I'm just going to fix it up. But o sea is something different.
Marilyn, if you're thinking you're showing something right now, you aren't.
Oh, can't hear it?
Can't hear it or see it.
Okay, let's try this again. Una vez más. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. Okay. Mejor? Better?
Sí.
Mejor.
Sí.
I don't know why. Click the button, but it didn't work for whatever reason. Okay, so, bueno, la primera,
Mozart.
el primer
Y la
ejemplo.
segunda es,
Me gusta la música clásica, o sea, compositores como Beethoven o Mozart.
mañana voy al concierto de rock. Digo, al festival de música.
So,
looking at the two examples, you need to choose the correct statement. Number one, o sea for expressing uncertainty and doubt, and digo for agreement and affirmation. Number two, o sea for indicating time or scheduling, and digo for expressing preferences or likes.
We're just going to see how they
Number
go through
three,
this.
o sea for expanding and explaining, and digo for instant correction.
So, okay, they had a little lesson first. What we're gonna cut straight to the chase with this. The number 3 option is the right one. O sea means you're going to expand and explain and like give examples in some way. Okay. So, me gusta la música clásica, o sea, compositores como Beethoven or Mozart. I like classical music. I mean, composers like Beethoven and Mozart, but Beethoven and Mozart are examples that fit into that category of la música clásica. Okay. And so that's why we use o sea, because we're giving examples from that category of la música clásica. All right. So the number 3 option is the one there that we should be picking, that we look for. The reason we have o sea in here is because it's a pause word. It's a pause that means, oh, I'm going to give you I like classical music. I mean composers like Beethoven, Mozart. The I mean segs into, I'm going to give you examples that clarify what I mean by that term, la música clásica. And that's why Osea is used. In the Eclipse video, she had lots of Oseas that were kind of sprinkled throughout. These words are always sprinkled. They're like salt and pepper. They're sprinkles, okay? Digo means we've got a correction. Mañana voy al concierto de rock. Digo al festival de música. This I mean of digo, which you did not hear in the Eclipse video, is I'm going to a rock concert tomorrow. Oh, I mean a music festival. And the digo means, oops, I made a mistake. I'm going to quick fix it. Okay. You're actually going to hear that osea way more than you hear the digo. Yeah. The self-correction digo phrase is less common than the osea. Lots of people pop osea into conversations. Okay. So osea is...
The easiest way to think about it is that osea is like the English phrase,
in other words, is a good translation for the osea. Yeah. We're giving examples.
in other
We use
words.
osea.
So if you're in doubt, just say the sentence to yourself and think, does in other words fit here? If it does, you can safely plump for osea. And as we already mentioned, digo is for
Okay, so we're going to skip over that digo part because we're not highlighting digo.
much more fluent.
Here is the next word.
Sí, esta palabra la utilizamos más o menos como los editores utilizan las transiciones. La puedes usar para abordar un tema, para cambiar de tema o para decir a regañadientes que estás de acuerdo con algo. Y es
Bueno.
Bueno, you heard a lot of buenos in the Eclipse video. So these two in particular, osea and bueno, and there's going to be a third one, you hear a ton during informal, impromptu conversations. And the Eclipse video was definitely an impromptu, not editing out any of the little pauses. So whether you were or were not confused by it, or you did or did not notice it, she had a lot of buenos sandwiched in. And she didn't really mean bueno as good in, I think, maybe not any of those examples. The bueno was a pause word. Yeah.
And guys, I know what you're thinking. Doesn't bueno mean good? And yes, it does. But it's also so much more than that.
Vamos a ver si la sabes usar bien.
Okay, so as we already mentioned, bueno is going to enable you to make seamless transitions between one topic and another in Spanish. So, here are two sentences. You need to try to work out how to make the transition between them smoother with a simple bueno.
Este fin de semana voy a limpiar la casa. También quiero aprender a hacer sushi.
This weekend I'm going to clean the house. I also want to learn how to make sushi. We'll give you 10 seconds.
Well, we don't. Okay. So the point of this is going to be, we can use
Y la
bueno to connect
respuesta
those two
es-
ideas.
Este fin de semana voy a limpiar la casa. Bueno, también quiero aprender a hacer sushi.
So, bueno is almost like the well word. Yeah. In English, well. Okay. So there were a lot of buenos liberally sprinkled throughout. And those were all little pause words. And the osea and the bueno are often used when you pause and you're inserting a different idea that, oh, you know, originally I didn't think about this, or you're transitioning into another idea there. And these are always called muletillas, which means a little crutch. And they're crutch words. So, okay, they don't have a lot of meaning just by themselves, but in an impromptu conversation off the cuff, you will hear the osea, the bueno, and the next word a lot. And they gave us choices, but we're not going to give the choices.
Super
The word
common filler
este.
word. Let's have a quick look at an example. Okay, so imagine you're at a restaurant and a waiter is asking a diner what he'd like to order.
¿Qué vas a querer, joven?
Deme un momento, por favor.
Este is a really true pause word. So, o sea, bueno, and este. Este does often, in the right combination, in the right context, mean this, like este micrófono, this microphone, okay? But este used by itself is a pause word, and it means somebody is saying, yeah. It doesn't mean much of anything. What it means is somebody is thinking about what they're going to say. They don't quite know what they're going to say, and that's why they say este. Este is one of those pause words. So you should have heard, sprinkled through the eclipse video, those three, o sea, bueno, and este, kind of liberally sprinkled throughout. So what I want to start with, because there was so much going on with this video, is to ask, ¿cuáles son sus preguntas? ¿Cuáles son sus preguntas sobre este video, lo que pasó con el eclipse? No fue el mismo eclipse que tuvimos aquí en Arizona, como parcial, ¿sí? Fue otro eclipse solamente en México, y les puede mostrar la ciudad, bueno, el pueblo es Bacalar. Ella habló de Bacalar, y Bacalar está aquí. Perdón. Ok, Bacalar está aquí. Está en Quintana Roo. Quintana Roo es el mismo lugar, el mismo estado donde queda Cancún, ¿sí? Cancún queda en Quintana Roo también, ¿ok? Y entonces ella fue al pueblo de Bacalar, aquí, en la península, ¿sí? De Yucatán. ¿Vale? ¿Sí? Fantástico. Entonces, ¿hay alguna pregunta de algo aquí? Was there anything in here that did not make sense to you, that you were a little puzzled by? Algo no, sí, Lori.
So at 1853,
Uy,
the
okay.
use of enseñar, I didn't understand it in the context because she said, no lo puedo enseñar.
Oh, okay. Bien, let's let it roll so you'll see.
Wow, allá están todos, no lo puedo enseñar mucho.
No lo puedo enseñar mucho. I can't, okay. Enseñar es to teach. Obviously, es obvio, no está enseñando. It's obvious she is not teaching, ¿sí? No lo puedo enseñar. Enseñar también quiere decir show. El contexto es no lo puedo enseñar mucho. I can't really show this very well. Yeah. So I guess the way you remember that is that teaching is showing. Yeah. Show and tell happens in a teaching class, show and tell. So keep in mind that enseñar can be used to indicate the idea of showing something, like demonstrating it to people. Bien? Ok. Vale. Perfecto. Bueno, hay otra pregunta del video, ¿o no? Bárbara tiene
Una
pregunta.
Ella, dijiste que los bubbles, los burbujas, algunas son de el sol y el otro de la luna? Me confunde.
Oh,
Sí, cuando ella
¿sabes el lugar exacto o no?
es muy cerca de aquí, sí, ella demostró que hay como dibujas, ¿sí? Y
Sí, es la reflexión del eclipse con el sol, pero en el superficie del suelo. Sí, ok. Ella no podía, no pudo. She was not able. She didn't get it done. No pudo grabar, no pudo filmar el eclipse porque podría dañar el lente, podría dañar el lente, ¿sí? El lente de su celular. Así que la única manera de demostrar, de mostrar, de enseñar las formas del eclipse que son como burbujas, they're like bubbles, ¿sí?
burbujas,
So,
sí.
sí, parecen a burbujas, they look like bubbles. Sí.
Sí. Y ella dijiste que algunas de las burbujas son el sol y las otras son de la luna.
Sí, porque la luna pasó por enfrente de la luna, o del sol. La luna pasó por frente del sol y solamente eso, sí.
Sí.
Ella dijo que sí, dijo que tenemos las reflexiones aquí como en la superficie, on the surface, sí, de lo que pasa en el cielo con el sol y la luna pasando por enfrente del sol.
Ok,
Ok,
bien, gracias.
bien, bien. Sí, y la idea de mostrar, sí, sí, los círculos que tienen aquí es porque no pudo grabar o filmar, sí, podría dañar la lente de la cámara. Es
Sí,
todo. Ok.
bien.
Bueno, ¿hay más? ¿Hay más preguntas? And you'll notice in a lot of those, there were little disjointed segments throughout. Yeah, it felt much more disjointed because it was not a formal, pieced together presentation that was continuous. It was like a live stream of what was happening. So that's why you hear a lot of the pause words like bueno, o sea, in this type of video, because in real life, when people talk, they don't have time to edit and do the nice little snips. It's like if you ever took a public speaking class and, your teacher got on your case for yeah, she didn't edit those out because in real life, we have pauses like that. And those are the words that they use with that. So it was a good demonstration. See, Lori.
Is pues considered a pause word also?
Pues is also, there are a bunch of these, yes. Pues is another one. Pues is in the category very much like bueno. Or maybe even este. Pues is also used as well. And it's also a pause word. And notice they speak Spanish perfectly, beautifully, and they still need pause words to stop and think about what they're going to say next. So these really make a conversation, these naturally come up all the time. So when you're listening to people speaking, they may have a very liberal sprinkling of these pause words in a normal conversation. because they too are pausing to rack their brains for what they want to say next. Así es. So it is. Con nosotros. Okay. ¿Hay más preguntas o no?
Es mucho interesante que en Estados Unidos mucha gente fue un lugar para ver eclipse.
El eclipse.
En este lugar
Casi
no
nadie.
tiene muchas personas.
Ah, sí, sí, sí. Bueno, entonces, Bacalar es un pueblo, está bastante lejos de Cancún. El lugar más popular, el lugar más turístico,
Sí.
el lugar con la cantidad de gente, una cantidad enorme de gente es Cancún o quizás Mérida. Mérida, que está aquí también en Yucatán, y Cancún y Playa del Carmen, sí, Playa del... mi sobrino se casó en Playa del Carmen. Son los lugares más populares. Campeche también, un lugar popular, porque tienen playas, tienen muchos turistas. Y Bacalar, sí, está aquí al sur y no hay tantas personas en los tours como en y es un pueblo, ¿sí?
Sí.
Y ella habló de la dificultad de manejar. She even talked a little about how, it was hard to drive my car here because it's a lot of rock and it's not like a really good paved street. Así es. Entonces, el lugar, buena palabra para hablar de un lugar como Bacalar es que Bacalar es un pueblo más aislado, more isolated.
Sí.
Más aislado es un lugar más lejano, far away, ¿sí? Está más lejos de las ciudades turísticas
Sí.
de Campeche, Mérida, Cancún. Así, ¿bien?
Sí.
Ok.
Oh, Meredith,
Sí.
disculpa, otra pregunta de la palabra este. Algunas veces oí un señor que me dijo, oh, mira, bebiendo en el bar, hablando tan alto. Algunas veces refiere una persona también
Sí, sí,
en
sí,
una
sí.
manera,
Sí.
¿sí?
Sí. Y bueno, la manera más fácil de explicar es que cuando ustedes oyen una persona diciendo con, con pausa,
Ok.
con pausa. Entonces, sí, indica que la persona necesita un poquito más de tiempo para pensar, ¿sí? Necesito un poquito más tiempo para pensar, ¿sí?
Mm,
Y when you hear it with a pause, even if it's a slight pause, not, exaggerated, and you may even hear it like this, or you may hear en or like that. That letter, this in the Spanish language is the resting vowel sound for the mouth. and throat, where we in English have they have eh. That's the resting position vowel sound. So I think you will hear any of these used as the word or the sound, okay? La persona no sabe, indica, con pausa, indica que la persona no sabe lo que quiere decir exactamente. Sí, tiene que pensar un poco antes de hablar. Está buscando la palabra correcta que quiere usar, ¿sí? Pero este es un verbo que también, por ejemplo, también este es como en inglés this, pero es masculino singular, ¿sí? Entonces, este chico, este micrófono, este carro, este perrito, sí, so this kid, this Mike, this car, we can pair it with any masculine singular word. And here's the thing to know. Este can also stand alone without that noun. And then it means, oops, this one.
Oh, this
Okay.
one.
So instead of saying este chico, if you've been talking about this kid is in my way, or this kid is great looking, or whatever, see? They might shorten it to just este. Instead of este chico, it might shorten to just este, and then it means this one kid. See? You're in a car parking lot. You're looking at all the cars you might be able to rent, right? You might say, quiero este. I want this one.
Sí.
And you don't have to say carro because you're surrounded by carros. They know you mean carro, this car, not this kid, because you're in the parking lot looking at all the rental cars. Quiero este. I want this one. So you might hear este use that, but notice there's no pause there. Quiero este. I want this one. Yeah. And then it would have to be obvious from just your surroundings. Yeah. So este has many little forms it can go into. So you have to listen to the whole context, all the other words surrounding that word este, or maybe there are no words surrounding it at all. And if there are no words surrounding it at all, because it's a pause, then it's the word. Yeah. Sí. And most frequently, you know, when you're ordering something, ¿qué quieres del menú? What do you want from the menu? No sé exactamente, tengo que buscar un momento, ¿sí? I need a little bit of time to think about this. So este can take many, many forms. It can be paired up with a noun to say this thing, this, and insert a noun, this car, insert a noun. And we can drop the noun and just use it to say this one. And it used to be years ago, in writing, that this one word had to have an accent mark on the first E. And the academia, I think this is maybe only 10 years ago, they said, oh, forget it. Nobody uses it anyway. So we're going to drop the accent mark. I used to get my knuckles rapped in high school for not using that accent mark. Everyone knows that when you use this demonstrative word by itself without the noun, you must have the accent mark. Well, apparently enough native speakers started dropping that like crazy to the point where they said, all right, don't bother with it anymore. So you may see it with an accent mark, and that's why it's there. It was an old rule that has now been negated, thrown out. But I was, of course, chastised for not using. But it's a written rule. So when people speak, you don't see that accent mark anyway, do you? No. No se ve, you don't see it. Okay, ¿hay alguna pregunta más con el video o no? ¿No? ¿Nada? ¿Bien? Vale, bueno. Adelante. Adelante. El eclipse. Y noté, noté, sí, los efectos del eclipse aquí. ¿Notaron ustedes? ¿Notaron? Did you guys notice? ¿Notaron ustedes? Sí, que la luz cambió, sí. Se oscureció un poquito. It got a little dark. Sí, un poquito. No tanto, pero como estar nublado. Bien, sí, más bien como si fuera, como si estuviera nublado afuera. Exacto. Bueno, vale, bien. Vamos a ver, vamos a ver. Quiero. Sí. Quiero preguntarles, I want to ask you if you felt this was useful. I got feedback from one person that actually, who confessed, I don't really speak aloud when I read. And I noticed when I did that I was not real right target on like I should have been. So I don't know if you noticed that, but I want to know if that shadowing type exercise was useful for you or not. Sean honestos, be honest.
A mí me gusta el video, pero a mí me di cuenta que yo hablo demasiado despacio. Casi no
Yo también.
Okay.
completar la frase y cada vez traté más y más rápido.
Más rápido. Okay, bueno. Lo que quiero decirles es esto. What I want to tell you guys is this. If you did that and you thought, this was really useful, or if you did this and said, I didn't like it, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you another but different one for the coming week for this reason. If you were in the camp of, this made me uncomfortable, try it again for this reason. A lot of the person who actually pointedly said, I realized that what I was saying was not always as accurate as it should be. So it made me correct myself. Also said, shoot, I had to hit the pause button a lot because it was fast. So the reason we're doing this follow-up with this is a technique kind of thing to help you practice this more in the coming week. Don't feel like I'm abnormal. If you had to hit that pause button, actually you're quite normal, because a lot of these folks, they just think, isn't this obvious? And you should be able to say this fast too. Okay. So there is a certain bias or a certain tendency with those who are native speakers to say, well, wasn't that easy? And think you can follow as quickly as they do. And no, that is not necessarily the case. So absolutely feel free, as part of the technique, try it again this week. We'll have a different video to do it. And be prepared this time to absolutely hit the pause button and feel no guilt over doing that. Sometimes, yes, that is necessary to slow it down, because native speakers often have a hard time realizing that others need more time. Yeah.
Marilyn,
See,
I had difficulty like where the words run together, like tratar de entender, and I'm trying to pronounce all the R's and of course do it before the time is up. But anyway, I found that very difficult. I got all tongue twisted with
oh, okay.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it is good practice for that.
It is good practice for that. And yes, you should start to notice. And that's kind of why we have done things as spring as connected as we have, where you see that slide. Okay, so be aware in the shadowing, you may hear that sliding together of words. You are going to hear that. Okay, so your job is to imitate that as closely as you can. Yeah. And if you need to slow it down, don't feel guilty about doing that. It is a normal part of that process. Yeah, sí, para que sepan, so that you know. Sí, Lori.
So the short phrases, those I was able to say quickly enough in the time, but like when it was a longer sentence, the first time I did okay. The second time I almost got it in, and the third time that was fast, nowhere near getting completely done.
Also feel free with this shadowing, I think, to maybe break it up into some smaller chunks of phrases, because sometimes they take a whole sentence and it might be kind of biting off more than you can chew. Yeah. So what I like to do with people is to take parts of the phrase that naturally hang together. So like the article, the noun, and the describer. See? Un eclipse fascinante. So you may want to slow it down to maybe a group of 3 words, or, a verb and an adverb that hang together. And we're going to do a little bit of this with a little reading segment we've got. So it'll be much slower than these videos. But I do want to go through part of that to sort of step you through that, because what I'm going to give you will be a slower kind of echo chamber feedback than you have with the videos. Sí, bien? Okay? Vale? Vale la pena. It really is worth the effort. And do feel free to slow down and pause. So like today in class, we are going to slow down and pause. And I'm going to chunk these things together, not really the whole sentence, like sometimes they do. I'm going to chunk them in smaller segments. See? Bien. And I would like people, voy a engrandecer este artículo aquí. Got to make this bigger.
Gracias.
Para que puedan ver. Okay. And I will ask people to repeat the chunks I say, and then we'll let people maybe take some turns reading a little bit. Este artículo es un artículo de, no sé, creo que viene de New York Times. Y en mi archivo se dice cartera. Cartera es wallet, ¿sí? Porque sí se trata de las carteras. Entonces, so when I do the chunk with you, I'm not going to take this whole phrase and say, repeat the whole thing. I'm going to break it into pieces. And what would make sense for me here would be the subject and the verb. Los jóvenes han hablado.
Los jóvenes han hablado.
Los jóvenes han hablado. El título dice, Young people have spoken. Es un anuncio. It's an announcement. I'm going to chunk it smaller. Las carteras se van.
Cartera se van.
Las carteras se van. Wallets are out. Se van, they go away. irse es go away. Diríamos en inglés, well, wallets are out. Y llega lo digital. Y llega lo digital.
Llega lo digital.
And that y llega is going to all run together. Y llega lo digital.
Y llega lo digital.
The digital thing is in. Lo digital es the thing. And whatever that descriptor is, see? Lo importante, the important thing. See? Lo digital, digital stuff is in. So you can translate this as digital things, digital stuff, the digital way, or whatever, lo que sea, right? It kind of depends on the context. Okay. ¿Es posible vivir?
Es posible vivir
Es posible vivir sin una billetera.
sin una terra.
This word is a little bit of a challenge, isn't it? That's a lot of syllables. Billetera. Billetera. If we divide this up into syllabus, this is how they would divide it up into syllables in the Spanish way of syllabication. Billetera. Billetera. Billetera es cartera. It's just a different word for cartera. It's a synonym. Okay. Sin una billetera.
Sin una billetera.
Okay. It's possible to live without a wallet. Si dependes únicamente de tu celular, that is tough to break up into anything smaller than that. Those words all hang together. Si dependes únicamente de tu celular.
Celular.
¿Sí? Pero esto, and here's a different esto. This is not este. This is esto. And it means this when it refers to just an abstract concept or an activity that you can't peg as a masculine or feminine thing. So esto also means this. Yeah. And what are they saying? What is this referring to? This is referring to going without your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely an abstract thing. I can't call that masculine, feminine. It's this. Okay. Here's how I would divide this up. Pero esto requiere. Pero esto requiere preparación y algunas concesiones. Preparación y unas concesiones. Okay. But this requires preparation and some concessions. Yeah. Some things that you give up. Okay. Let's try maybe one or two people, if you want to be brave and try to do a shadowing with me. Un voluntario, somebody wants to try this with me, and then we'll give people just a chance to just read without the shadowing thing, but I want to give you a little shadowing drill with me today. ¿Alguien quiere ser voluntario? Somebody want to be a volunteer? See? Okay. Carolyn, bien. Okay. So I want you to repeat what you're going to see highlighted and what, sadly, this one is going to be hard to break up. So you get a long one, Carolyn. Okay, here we go. Para un número cada vez mayor de jóvenes.
Para un número cada vez mayor de jóvenes.
Muy bien. Una billetera o cartera.
Una billetera o cartera.
Lleno de dinero.
Llena de dinero.
Y tarjetas.
Y tarjetas
es tan anticuada
están anticuada
como fajarse la camisa a lo millennial.
una más vez.
Ok, sí. Como fajarse
Como fajarse
la camisa
la camisa
a lo millennial.
a lo millennial.
Millennial, sí, millennial. Millennial. Ok.
Sí.
¿Qué
Ok.
quería decir? No, una frase más, sí. Cargar solo con tu celular
Cargar solo con tu celular
es lo de hoy.
es lo de hoy.
Perfecto. Muy bien. Hiciste muy bien. Hiciste muy bien. You did really well. Okay. ¿Qué quiere decir? For a number of young people, cada vez mayor, for a greater and greater number of young people is how, and our word order in English is very different. Cada vez mayor, each time greater. For a greater and greater number of young people, a wallet or billfold. Oh, we have the word billfold. Yeah. Full of money and cards is as antique, as antiquated as, fajarse. A faja is something that you tie around here, like a sash.
Oh,
Here it means tucking in. It's as antiquated as tucking in your shirt like a millennial. And if you don't know what that means, sometime later, go Google millennials tucking in their shirts, because there is a certain way that is correct to tuck in your t-shirt these days, which I don't do, and probably you don't either. I have a 20-something-year-old child. Yes, that is how they tuck in their shirts. Okay. Cargar here is used just like you would use llevar, Lori, and we'll talk later about this llevar. Cargar here, cargar can mean to load up, like load up a truck, load up, yeah.
Don't you use cargar for charging a cell phone? Is
You
that the
also
same
use it
word?
for
Is that the
charging
same
up.
verb?
Sí, eso también, that too. Okay. So here they're using it in the sense of taking it along with you.
carrying it.
Going out or carrying, taking along, only your cell phone is the thing today. It's the thing. It's the thing to do. Okay. Bien. Anybody else who wants to do a little bit of shadowing with me? Dos frases. Okay, we'll take Barbara first and then Lori. Here he's being very tongue-in-cheek. Yo, Brian Chen, un canoso columnista.
Yo, Brian Chen, un canoso columnista
De temas tecnológicas, de temas tecnológicos
de temas tecnológicos
de 39 años.
de 39 años.
No soy de los que lo saben.
No soy de los que lo saben.
I, Brian Chen, a gray-haired columnist on tech topics of 39 years old, I'm not one of the ones who knows about this. Para mí es impensable. Sí, Bárbara.
Oh, para mí es impensable
Separarme de mi cartera,
separarme de mi cartera,
que contiene artículos cruciales,
que contiene artículos cruciales,
como mi licencia de conducir.
como mi licencia de conducir.
Bien, okay. So, and the para mí is indicating his opinion.
Mm.
I think it's unthinkable to separate myself. So we would say do away with, yeah. to do away with my wallet, which contains crucial articles, crucial things like my driver's license. Okay. Lori, un poquito aquí. Así que, en un intento por estar a la moda de nuevo,
en un intento por estar a la moda de nuevo,
recluté a mi colega de 23 años, Yuen Lu. Recluté a mi colega.
recluté a mi colega de 23 años. I don't know how to
Yuen
say
Lu.
that. Lu.
No sé cómo se pronuncia Yuen Lu tampoco. Ok. Vale. Para saber cómo pueden vivir así.
¿Cómo pueden vivir así?
Los jóvenes.
Los jóvenes.
Y luego le di al salto.
Yo di el salto.
Yo di al salto. Ok. Bien.
Di el
So,
salto.
bien. Así que, so that, in an effort, intento is a try, see? In an effort to be in step with the new things, to be in style, see? Estar de moda is to be in style. So in an effort to be in step with what's new, yeah, I recruited. Reclutar is to recruit. I recruited my colleague, my 23-year-old colleague. Por eso, sí. In order to find out how young people, how young people can live like this. And later, yo di el salto. I took the leap. A salto is a leap. I took the leap, meaning I gave it a try. Okay, vale. Ustedes hicieron bien. You guys did well with shadowing. Bien. Okay. Now we'll let people just do some reading here. But, es una frase larga. Here's a long sentence. Es una frase larga. So you want to split this into some parts, right? And we're going to look for things like commas. We're going to look for words that hang together. Yeah, see? ¿Alguien quiere leer aquí? Anybody want to read this and not shadowing necessarily repeating what I say, but just reading? ¿Alguien quiere leer aquí? ¿Alguien más? Okay, Diana.
Al abandonar mi billetera física, me uno a jóvenes como Ruby Hegeb,
No,
una
sí, no sé.
estudiante de 19 años en Fremont, California, quien me contó que en cuanto obtuvo su primera tarjeta de crédito el año pasado, se valió totalmente de su iPhone para pagar sus víveres, paquimentos y comidas en restaurantes, así como para guardar sus tarjetas de seguros.
Okay, and the only word you need to work on there is guardar.
Guardar.
And we have trouble with, because sometimes that GU goes silent, sometimes it doesn't. Here we do say the usan, guardar. Okay, aquí en inglés, upon abandoning my physical wallet, I get together with young people like Ruby, a 19-year-old student from Fremont, California. And now we tell about Ruby. ¿Quién me contó que? Who told me that? And now contar tells you she's giving some real details. It's not just me dijo, she said to me. It's me contó. So that means she's going to be like telling how. She's going to be giving a lot of details because of that verb contó. Who told me that? As soon as, en cuanto. As soon as obtuvo, obtener is to get. And this obtuvo is in pretérito, pasado. So as soon as she
Obtained.
obtained, but you might say got, because got is easier, right? And it conveys the same meaning. Obtener is got, obtained. As soon as she obtained, as soon as she got her first what?
Credit card.
Credit card. Oh, 19
Last year.
años. Sí. Se valió totalmente de su iPhone. She took advantage of, valer is to be worth. So she took
validated. She validated.
She just used her iPhone. She used only her iPhone. She took advantage of using just her iPhone to pay for, what do you think víveres are? It's like vivir, kind of.
So living stuff. It's
Living style.
Living expenses.
expenses. Yeah.
Yeah, all the little stuff you spend on to live on is víveres. What a handy word. Vivir, to live, stuff you live on, víveres. To pay for her living expenses. Parquímetros. Parking meters. Meals and restaurants. And keeping her, seguros, insurance. Una tarjeta de seguros es insurance card. Okay. And to keep, guardar is when you keep and you put something away in a safe place. Okay. So guardar can mean to guard. That's, literally the translation for guardar. But guardar is in common conversation used also, besides like guys with guns guarding something like a bank. It's meaning to keep, meaning you put it away someplace safe. That kind of keep. Okay.
Before we go on, I have a question.
Sí.
There's no verb, so I would not get like that me uno a jóvenes, like to get together with.
Yeah, I join up with, I join. This is a way of saying I get together with, I meet up with. There are a number of verbs that talk about.
Uno is a verb, not uno.
Unirse, unirse. Sí, unirse. Okay. Oh, sí, no es uno como el número. This is not like the number one.
Okay.
Oh, doesn't that just look like one? Sí.
That's what one. Yeah.
Ahora entiendo, sí. Okay, so no, this is actually a good little scenario for us to take a look at. Whenever I hear something like me uno, I know those words go together, me uno. And that means, that uno is not this number. I can only combine this me with a verb of some kind. So it must be a verb. And you might not know if it's unar, uner, unir. Well, I'm telling you, it's unir. And unirse. Unirse is to unite with, to unite oneself. So this is one of the get together verbs. One of the, there are many, many ways to say meet up with. We've got a little something on that as well to take a look at in a little bit, but okay. Me uno, I get together with, and it's a verb because it's got a me in front of it. That's how you know. Okay. Vale. Okay. Y es una cita. Here's una cita. It's a quote. Perdón. Okay, alguien quiere leer. Somebody want to take a turn reading here? Un poquito. Marco, sí.
Si una tienda no acepta pagos desde el teléfono. No consumo ají. No consumo ají, dijo Igab. Pero
Sí.
esto,
Oh, no, continúa.
you want me to stop?
Sí, sí, sí.
Pero esto rara,
Sí.
ves, sucede porque la gran mayoría de los establecimientos que visita, incluidos los grandes almacenes y las tiendas pequeñas independientes, ahora aceptan algún tipo de pago móvil a través de servicios como Apple Pay y Venmo.
Y Marcos, you had a very good natural pause. You hung together words that hang together in a phrase super well in that example. That is a lot.
Probably after one of those long words that I have to catch my breath.
Okay, except for establecimientos. Okay, esto sí, establecimientos. There's a really long. Wow, look at all those syllables. Look at all those vowels. Establecimientos. Wow. Okay, so let's take that one out of the pot because that one's a complicated word. Okay, entonces en inglés, see, if a store does not accept payments from the phone, desde means from the source, from in the sense of the source, yeah, from or by phone, yeah. I don't consume, meaning I don't consume at that store. I don't buy at that place. I don't buy there. Now,
can I just say something that seems so funny to me? But this feels like, a young person who now is doing the mobile pay, like somebody maybe like my age now, but 40 years ago, I'm not going to shop there if they don't accept American Express.
Exacto. Es una comparación válida, sí. Eso es, sí. Pero las cosas cambian con las generaciones y con los jóvenes, sí, lo que ellos requieren para usar un servicio o pagar por algo es un poquito diferente ahora, ¿sí? And the only thing that you had a little trouble with, and this is a normal thing, ahí. Yeah, that H won't be pronounced, right? Ahí. And it's just a there word, and you might hear allí more with allá, right? You might hear allá, meaning it's way further out, but ahí means there. Okay. So don't worry a whole lot about ahí. It just means there. Okay. Pero esto, and notice we've got this neuter. I know it ends in o, but it's neuter, this neuter word esto aquí. But this, and this is referring to a whole concept. And the concept is this. I can't categorize that as masculine or feminine. So I use what is actually a neuter word for this as esto. It's talking about that concept, that idea, right? But this happens only rarely. Rara vez, rare times, hardly ever. Hardly, but this hardly ever happens. Suceder is like pasar, is like ocurrir. This hardly ever occurs, this hardly ever happens, because the great majority of establishments that she visits, que visita that she visits or he visits, no sé, es una chica, Ruby, creo que es una chica, including big department stores, almacenes are department stores, big department stores, and small independent stores now accept algún tipo, some type
Mobile payment.
Some type of mobile payment. Ah. A través de means by means of or through. Yeah. Través is, traversing means going this way. Yeah. So think of that as movement. A través de, by means of or through services like Apple Pay y Venmo. See? Y hay varias aplicaciones ahora, hoy en día, como Apple Pay, como Venmo, como, ¿cómo es? Depende del banco, si cada banco tiene un Zelle, sí,
Zelle.
Zelle es
Yeah.
otra manera de pagar. Ok, y aquí van a hablar de una encuesta. Una encuesta es survey, ¿sí? ¿Hay alguien que quiere leer aquí esta frase? Anybody who wants to take a turn reading here? Un poquito. Alguien. Sí, Trish. Let's give Trish a chance to do some.
En una encuesta que les preguntó a poco más de 2,500 estadounidenses sobre los pagos digitales, un 80% de las generaciones Z respondió que usa billeteras móviles. Y de ellos, la mitad deseaba usar sus celulares para mucho más que pagar por cosas.
Eso es. Muy bien, muy bien. Ok. Y aquí la letra es Z.
Oh,
So
okay.
that letter Z is said as Zeta, kind of
Zeta.
like the Z of the Brits, yeah, Z instead of Z, Zeta es la letra, ¿sí? Bien, hiciste bien, you did well, and wow, you got that 500 out, yeah, bien. El número más difícil de todos para
That was easier than the next word for me.
estadounidenses. Well, yes, then it was followed up with another nasty, right? 2,500, 2,500, sí, estadounidenses. And do know that, when you struggle with this word, and this word is actually super common because it means U.S. citizen, it means American, right? For somebody who's from the US. And this is what is most often used, the most blessed, the most correct form is estadounidenses. Break it into two words because Estados Unidos we don't struggle with so much. But when we slam that sucker all together, now it's a problem, right? So estadounidenses. Do know that sometimes not only you think that's a long word, I frequently hear people who drop the O. It's not technically correct, but you will hear native speakers dropping the O off of that estado in that word, estadounidenses. Because look what it is. It's an O followed by an U. O. You will hear people, although it's not technically correct, drop the O when they say that word, estadounidenses. So don't be surprised if they sound like they're just being sloppy or lazy. Well, okay, maybe they kind of are, but there are people who will drop that word or that letter out of that word. Okay, so in a survey that asked them, and notice the them has to be there, even though we wouldn't in English say them, that asked more than 2,500 US people, Americans, about digital payments. 80% of Generation Z, that means those young ones, those 20-somethings, responded that they used, and that is not a preterite, that is an imperfecto, because they were using, yeah, not a one-off kind of event, but they were doing it a lot, that they were using mobile wallets. Yeah. And of them, y de ellos, and of them, meaning of that 80%, la mitad deseaba usar sus celulares. The half of them, la mitad is a half of them wanted to use their cell phones for much more than paying for things. Sí, claro, of course they do. Okay. Bien. Y sigue un poquito más. We're going to, I think, let that go for now. And stop right there. I will give you the link to the rest of this article, and we'll come back and open with this. And I'm going to make a little marker thing here so I know where we left off. Yeah, we left off there. So you know where to pick up reading again, so you can read ahead. So next week, you'll have a chance to read the rest of this, and it's about like a page and a half. Well, okay, maybe almost 2 pages. But you'll have a chance to read ahead, and we'll give people a chance to read a little bit more in class, but we'll start off with this here. So, okay, vale. Bueno, you had, uy, momentito. You had some, they had that phrase, unirse, to get together with. We want to look at something. I wanted to do this actually last session, but we didn't quite have time to fit it in. All the different ways we might say meet up. This is going to be about words that are the same. And why do you care? You care because you use one word, but somebody may respond with a different term that means the same thing, but they just want to mix it up and not repeat what you just said, right? The idea of using a synonym, because we don't want to be repetitive, saying the same word over and over and over again, okay? These are different ways that people talk about meeting up. Can you see him on the screen? ¿Sí? ¿Pueden ver? No. Okay. Momentito, ¿dónde está? Wow, my controls left me. And no, aquí vienen. Here they come back. A ver, bueno, okay.
Meet in Spanish. In this video series, How to Say in Spanish, we look at those phrases which can be difficult to translate from English to Spanish, and we find the best translations and the most natural way to say things in Spanish. It's aimed at intermediate to advanced Spanish learners, although if you're a beginner, you'll still find it really useful. I'm Rob from Spanish Obsessed, and Liz will be helping us out with her beautiful native Spanish.
Hola!
So, to meet with someone, how do we say this in Spanish? Well, when you think about it, in English, when we say meet, there are 2 different possible meanings, and depending on what we want to say, that can actually help us choose the best translation in Spanish. In English, you can meet someone for the first time. So you could say, for example, I first met my wife 9 years ago, or we first met in the cafe. Or you could meet someone you already know for a coffee, meal, or whatever. For example, let's meet tomorrow for lunch. So let's start with that meaning for meet, for when you meet someone for the first time. And the verb we use in Spanish is
conocer.
And don't forget, when you talk about a person, so when a person is the object of the verb, we need to use what's called the personal a. So we use conocer a una persona. And when you think about it with this meaning of conocer, you're almost certainly going to be talking about a point in the past. So we'll use the preterite past tense for a specific point for when you first met someone.
So when you talk about when you first meet somebody, usually that winds up being a past, because you say, I met him at this place. I met her when I met my best friend when I was 15, right? Or whatever, lo que sea. But you're going to need that conocer in pretérito because it's a certain point and then it's over with forever, right? It's not a repeated event. Sí, Bárbara.
Lo siento, siempre me confundo. ¿Por qué tenemos que usar el personal a con conocer?
Because when a person receives the action of the verb, we use what is called the a personal. And that just means that a person as an object of the sentence receiving the action, we need to insert that little word a in front of that person's name or in front of the pronoun that talks about them. Okay, you'll see an example of that. So conocer, when you talk about conocer with a place, like you know your way around a place, you don't need the a. When you use conocer to say you know somebody, you need that a in front of that somebody's name. And I'll show you the example here.
I met is.
Conocí a.
Let's try a couple of phrases. I met my wife 9 years ago. 9 years ago is hace 9 años. My wife is mi esposa. And then string it all together.
Conocí a mi esposo hace 9 años.
Conocí a mi esposa. Conocí a mi esposo. Depende, esposo, esposa. Depende de la persona, claro. Conocí a mi esposa. And that little a needs to be there, okay? Because that's a human being receiving the action of met. That's all. Okay.
Let's try another one. We first met last week.
Nos conocimos la semana pasada.
Nos conocimos. We met each other. Yeah, there the nos means we each other. Yeah. Nos conocimos la semana pasada. We met last week.
Question?
But that means we met, and that means the very first time. We didn't know each other before. That's what that means. See, Lori.
So you don't have to like say primero in there. If you use conocer,
Oh, exacto.
that means first time.
Now, that's not to say somebody might say first time, but then if they say first time, it'll come out something like this. Por primera vez. Por primera vez. For the first time. But that'll be only if somebody really wants to emphasize the very first time idea. Most of the time, they won't bother with that por primera vez because the conocer in preterite automatically means it was the one time. See? Bien?
So,
but notice that is met, not in we got together. We met at the corner. We met at the museum. No, it is we met for the first time. Okay, it's got to be specifically that first time, one-off, one. You know, we didn't know each other before. It's got to be that scenario.
you use conocer with that sense of meeting someone for the first time. But what about just meeting someone, let's say, for coffee? Well, there are a few ways, again, of saying meet with this.
Now there are going to be different ways, but multiple, and many of them interchangeable, so that you know, right? Because you may use one way and somebody may respond using the other way. That's okay in many cases.
In Spanish. And again, they all have different subtleties. So let's start with encontrarse con. We use this for more of a chance meeting. Think of like when you bump into someone. So,
oh, this one does have kind of a nuanced thing. I met somebody, meaning, oh, I didn't expect that. I ran into them. Think how stupid ran into really sounds like in English. You didn't run into somebody. Well, maybe you did. And then it was a big oops, right? But I ran into them. I happened to meet them. This is a by chance kind of thing. Okay?
So, for example,
ayer me encontré con Ana en el parque.
Me encontré con Ana en el parque. Me encontré con Ana. I ran into Ana. I met up with her. Oh, didn't think that was going to happen. This wasn't planned. So encontrarse is for the this wasn't planned, met idea. Ah, this wasn't planned.
Yesterday I met or I bumped into Anna in the park.
Bumped into, same thing. See, in English, bumped into means you met somebody briefly and it was unexpected.
The next one is reunirse. So this is to meet in the sense of...
And reunirse, and take a look at this. Unir is buried in the middle. There's the unir that Laura, you asked about, but it's without the re in front of it. Reunir means to reunite, yeah? So it's only a very short hop, skip, and a jump to get to unirse, get together, yeah? Reunirse is to get together. This one is planned. This one is not an accidental, okay? So there's got to be some planning, some agreement with this one.
Together.
Vamos a reunir a todos los trabajadores mañana.
We're going to meet up with all the workers, everybody, tomorrow. Okay. Bien.
We're going to get all of the workers together, so meet in the sense of get together tomorrow. The next one is juntarse. Again, this is used in the sense of get together, but it's probably a little less formal. So think of like...
yeah, juntarse is kind of a less formal connotation. Juntar means to join. You know, we talk in English about military juntas, and that means a group of, you know, a few military guys who run the government. That comes from the same basic root as this word of juntarse, getting together. See, juntarse is more like meet up.
Like hang out.
Hang out.
I don't know, kids hang out in the shopping center or whatever.
Juntarse, a little more like hang out. Yeah, a little more informal.
Los jóvenes siempre se juntan en los centros comerciales.
Young people always hang out at shopping centers, malls. Yeah. Centros comerciales, commercial centers, we would say a mall or shopping center. See?
So that means the kids always hang out or get together in the shopping centers, or what do you say in America, in the malls. And our final verb is quedar. And this is probably...
here comes quedar again. And quedar can mean to meet up with people, and especially when they are, but it won't be by chance, like that encontrarse. It is not by chance. It is an agreement to get together at a place or maybe at a time. It's flexible, it's flexible.
The one which you would use most of the time. It's just meet in the sense of casually meet for coffee or for a meal or whatever.
¿Quedamos a las 8 mañana?
Shall we get together at 8 tomorrow? Quedamos a las 8. Shall we get together? Can we agree on 8 o'clock to get together? Quedar, without the se, no se in there, just quedar. Yeah, and it's got to be conjugated for nosotros, for yo, for tú. It's got to be conjugated. It is implying that there is an agreement on a time and a place between some people. And that's why that one gets conjugated, because it indicates that there is an agreement on that time and that place.
Shall we meet tomorrow at 8 then, if it's phrased as a question, or it could just mean we meet or we'll meet tomorrow at...
And this is a way a lot of people will ask the question, shall we get together at a certain place, or shall we get together at a certain time? Do you want to get together? This is, quedar is used for that. You want somebody to give you a yes, or maybe they'll say a qualified yes and change the time or change the place.
¿A qué hora quedamos el viernes?
This means...
what time shall we get together on Friday? This means we're asking for a time.
What time do we meet on Friday? Word of warning with quedar is to not get this mixed up with quedarse. They obviously sound very similar, but they do have different meanings. Quedarse, with the se, the se on the end, that means to stay.
Nos quedamos en el restaurante.
We stay or we stayed in the restaurant.
And that is different. That does not mean get together. That means stayed, like we were there for quite a while, right? And quedarse is more commonly used for saying where you're staying when you're in a hotel setting, when you're traveling, where you're going to be staying while you travel, right? That quedarse is more common when we're talking about lodging. Or in this case, they are talking about, certainly you're not sleeping in the restaurant like a hotel, but it just means we stayed there. We remained there for a long time.
Whereas to meet, you don't have the SE, se ending.
Quedamos en el restaurante.
We meet or we'll meet in.
Without the nos, without the reflexive, it means we're meeting up. Nos quedamos is we're staying or we stayed, but just quedamos without the nos is we're agreeing on the restaurant as a place where we're going to meet, get together.
In a restaurant. So quedarse is to stay, quedar is to meet. All right, quick summary then. When you meet someone for the first time, that's when you use conocer. Encontrarse a is to meet in the sense of bumping into someone. Reunirse is to get together. Juntarse is also meet as in get together. And finally, quedar, this is probably what you want to use most of the time. That means to meet as in a planned meeting.
Okay, so notice you didn't see unirse in there, but unirse is very much related to that middle term you see in his list of reunirse. And I would say unirse is maybe more common when you're talking in the workplace about getting everybody together who are in colleagues and work teams or schools, yeah, reunirse. Or even family members for parties, meetings, anything like that. But notice for first time, one off, just conocer, and that needs to be in preterite, right? Most of the time. Encontrarse is the chance, the oops, didn't expect it, bump into idea. And all these three talk about meet up with somebody, and they're kind of interchangeable. Juntarse is considered maybe a little bit less formal, but not a big deal. Bien, so you have these last three terms: reunirse, juntarse, quedar. Pretty safe to just flip those out one for the other. Interchangeable, I would say. Sí, bien. Okay, vale.
Question?
Sí.
What's the difference between reunirse and unirse?
Not a whole lot. The reunir is kind of like more the idea of let's gather everybody together. And unirse is more like I get myself together with somebody. Kind of think of it as I'm attaching myself to this person to get together with them. And the reunir is more like gather everybody together, more than one person.
So unirse is more like a one-on-one kind of meeting?
Yeah, sí.
Okay.
Sí. I would say that reunirse is probably a little more common. Reunirse is what you hear when people talk about setting up a meeting at work, at school, with a group, you belong to a social group, see? Reunirse, probably a little more common, but see, you'll always have those little tweaks like we had with that little article. Okay, vale, bien? Bien, magnífico. Okay, la semana que viene, next week, I want you to finish up the Cartera article. Just finish reading that and do try to read aloud. And if you're really, really diligent, read aloud with and record yourself and kind of listen back. You don't have to listen to all of it, record all of it, but a little bit. Shadowing, and you're going to get a shadowing video. I need to check out the length of time that shadowing video is. I want to give you a second video to listen to for just a story, for not shadowing is a lesson in a practice, but I want to give you a story as well. But I don't want to have two that are super long. So if I have to look for a story, that will be a short story if that is a long shadowing, because I suspect it is. Bien. We are also going to revisit, just like we went through these things of, hey, what's with this idea of how do you say meet somebody? We're going to look or revisit another verb, which was a request of the verb llevar. Llevar, the double L-E-V-A-R, llevar, is carry or bring, but it's used in a lot of contexts, like the meet can be lots of contexts. Meet can be one time. Meet can be just hang out with. Meet can be ran into somebody. I met him on the street. I bumped into him and didn't expect it. So just like there are certain words that have nuances, llevar will have lots and lots and lots of nuances. And we're going to take a look at some of those next week, la semana que viene, just so you know where we're going with that particular topic. ¿Todo bien? All good?
Yeah.
Todo bien, perfecto. I'm going to try to find a fun little story for you guys. It'll be just a listen, sit back, listen, and enjoy the story. Go for the big idea. Don't look up a bunch of words because they'll explain what most of those words are. But do keep a little running list with the story video for any words you don't quite get, and we'll handle those later. Todo bien? Okay. Vale, fantástico. Yeah, give that shadowing another try this week. Vale la pena. It is totally, totally worth the effort. Y nos vemos la semana que viene. Sí, bien.
Yeah. Sí.
Perfecto. Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Ustedes son
Gracias.
fantásticos. You guys are just great.